Chapter 219. Although Thea was determined to break them up, she could not watch Diana, who was now in a bad temper, stab Steve to death. After comforting Diana, she returned to the room and changed into her Kevlar combat suit. Wearing the suit again after so many days, it was as if she had returned to the days when she was fighting a bloody battle in Gotham. Looking at the Amazon half-body armor that she had worn for more than half a year, Thea thought that even if she came back 100 years later, Hippolyte might not let her on the island. It was a souvenir, after all. She kept it in the bloodline imprint. When she put it in the bloodline imprint, Thea realized that the armor could be considered a piece of magical equipment, but its effect was extremely weak. Seeing that Diana was still waiting for her outside the door, Thea looked at the furniture in the room. If she could come back again, it would be 100 years later. She gently closed the door and walked out of the small house that she had stayed in for half a year. Let's go. Diana did not know that the two of them would not be back in a short time. She only thought that Thea had made a lot of determination to help her. She held her hand and whispered words of comfort in a low voice. As a follower, Steve's eyes were very sharp. He immediately noticed that Thea's clothes were different from the others. It was dark red and had a very beautiful appearance. Was this the local clothes? You must be kidding me. Steve compared it to the female warrior's armor that he saw during the day. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that it was a completely different style. However, Steve did not ponder for long. He found that the very anti-Darwinian elk that he saw during the day was following them. He quickly walked 2 steps to the 2 women, pointed at the elk that was following them, and whispered, "That elk is following us?" Thea looked at him and did not say anything. How interesting. I called it over. I haven't even summoned my unicorn yet. Won't you faint when you see the unicorn? That's our oracle, our friend. Diana kindly explained. Steve's mouth was wide open. This elk is amazing. Can grow. This is against Darwinian evolution. Do you know Darwin? Anti-Darwin? Thea's eyes lit up when she heard the word. Steve was about to explain the latest human research to these uncivilized natives when Thea ran to the elk and hugged its head happily. You've been with me for so long, but I've never thought of a good name for you. Just now, that sidekick reminded me. Anti-Darwin. Fandral Staghelm. What do you think of the name? The elk rolled its eyes in a very human-like manner. Thea did not feel embarrassed at all and said, Fandral in that world dreamed of having a pair of antlers that symbolized the great druid. You're much happier than him. It's settled then. Thea, who had trouble naming, felt as if a huge burden had been lifted off her shoulders. She sighed with a face full of happiness, and her footsteps became lighter. Have you made up your minds? The 2 girls had not gone far from the central settlement when Hippolyte and Antiope both emerged from the shade of the trees. Mother! Your Majesty! There was a moment of silence. Artemis, can I have a word with you? Hippolyte unexpectedly went to Thea first. Why are you looking for me? Thea was a little confused. It seemed that there was nothing for her to do here, but she respectfully went to the side to listen to what the Queen had to say. But the Queen's first words shocked her. You're not from this point in time, are you? Are you from the future? This. Thea looked at the Queen's very calm expression. It seemed that the Queen was certain of this matter, and she could not think of an excuse even after racking her brains. You don't have to rush to deny it. I have followed the King of Gods to witness the prosperity and decline of the Empire, the birth and death of species, and I have also been in contact with time travelers. I just want to ask you 2 questions. Who knows the future? Your Majesty, please speak. In the face of this knowledgeable Zeus mistress, Thea was really helpless. God knows what equipment she had on her, so she could only try to be as humble as possible. Is Diana in danger on this trip? Will her honor be recognized in human society? This trip was scary but not dangerous. For the first question, Thea answered very straightforwardly. If you ignore the fact that you gave her the Godslayer, there might not even be a scary answer. As for the second question, Thea thought for a moment before she said word by word. Human society will not recognize a demigod at first, but in the end, they will recognize Diana's heroic deeds. Then I'm relieved. Keep this as a souvenir. Paradise Island will always welcome you, the queen said as she handed Thea an emerald green ring and walked towards Diana with a smile on her face. Oh my God! Thea felt touched the moment she saw the ring. Not far away, the elk also instantly looked at the ring. This is Artemis's ring. This is definitely one of the equipment that Hippolyte swindled. This woman is too sneaky. She took the equipment that originally belonged to her and gave it to me before I left. Thea has to accept her kindness and thank her. The moment Thea received the ring, she understood the operation principle of the ring. This was the elk's habitat, an equipment made with divine power. The space in the ring was very large. Although the main purpose of the ring was for the elk to rest, she could also discuss with it to put other things. Thea burst into tears. Finally, she had a space ring. Finally, she didn't have to force the equipment into the unicorn's space. Thea, who had suffered a lot, thought of another matter. Your Majesty, about Niobe? She is a proud Amazon warrior. She will return to the tribe. The queen said faintly. Thank you for your kindness. Thea was completely fine. She happily put the ring on the ring finger of her right hand. She also understood the meaning of women wearing rings. The ring finger represented passionate love. Presumably, through this move, she could repel a lot of flies. In fact, how could people be so particular? Marvel next door wore 10 rings and no one gossiped. She had just started her journey. In the future, there would be more and more magic rings. Thea put the elk back into the ring and stood alone, watching Antiope constantly instructing Diana. Finally, he put his forehead protector on Diana's forehead, patted her shoulder and left alone. When the queen finally left, Diana's face was miserable. She hugged Thea and said with a choked voice, Mother said that if I leave, I will never come back. Thea patted her on the back and comforted her. As long as you complete your mission, you will come back here one day. This is your home. Go summon up your courage. This is your destined path. No matter what the road ahead is, I will accompany you to finish this journey. Sure enough, when the sense of mission was mentioned, Diana recovered most of her spirit. Although she was still a little depressed, she finally raised some fighting spirit. Chapter 220. The night mist lingered around the three of them, and it was quiet all around. Only the sound of the queen's horses' hooves gradually faded away. Thea pulled the sad Diana and said, Don't look back. Let's go. Originally, Diana might have blamed herself for the death of her people and Antiope, and the strong sense of guilt had driven her to embark on this road of self-exile. But now, Paradise Island was almost intact, and there were a few more German captives for the female warriors to study in their spare time. Although the sense of mission in her heart had not diminished at all, the motivation to leave was obviously not as strong as in the original timeline. Although Thea could not guess the reason, she could see that Diana's intention to leave was a little shaken by Hippolyte's words. She could not say too much to comfort her. Anyone who knew that they would never return to a place where they had stayed for 5,000 years would hesitate. Diana, a little white flower who had never been in contact with human society, would have a faint fear of the outside world. She had to force herself on him. Thea forced Diana onto the boat. As for Steve, he had already jumped onto the boat and waited for them. This boat doesn't seem to have any oars, right? As a spy, Steve still had the ability to observe people's expressions. Diana's mood was obviously not right, and he did not dare to talk to the two women now. He looked around the palm-sized boat and did not see any power plant, so he could only ask Thea, who looked a little kind-hearted. No oars. In the original plot, how did they get off the island without oars? Thea glanced around and did not see any oars. Did the two of them float out? She was too lazy to look for them. After leaving the vicinity of Paradise Island, her physique of absorbing light finally returned to normal. The quiet night sprinkled a large amount of moonlight on her pretty face, covering her with a hint of holiness. Once again, Thea summoned the magician's hand, which scared Steve so much that he peed his pants, and controlled the boat to raise the sails. Thea had learned this knowledge when she watched old Robert sail out to sea when she was a child. She then released a strong wind spell, and the wind blew on the sails. The boat almost left the shore of Paradise Island at full speed. So it's a sail control system. You guys are pretty advanced. I thought you guys were using oars. Steve felt a little embarrassed. It was dark, and he really didn't see the lone mast. In order to make himself look less stupid, he quickly explained. Thea waved her hand, too lazy to listen to his explanation. Do you know where we are now? Or how far is it from London? You don't even know where you are? Steve despised them in his heart. After all, they were uncivilized natives. However, he still said politely, I was flying from Germany to England. I don't know how the route deviated from the sea. I should be in the North Sea now. Do you know the North Sea? Cut the crap. I know the North Sea. The Quinn Group had a branch in Norway, but that was a century later. Thea had been to Europe when she was a child, and she had seen some of the landmarks. Now that she was treated like a barbarian by Steve, she couldn't help but feel annoyed. She felt the magic power in her body. Under the night sky, the consumption of her spells would be reduced to a certain extent. Putting magic power on the surface of her body, she slowly rose into the air while Steve looked as if he had seen a ghost. When she flew to a height of 100 meters, Sia used her divine power to open the Eye of Horus. 1 nautical mile to the south, there was nothing. 2 nautical miles, 5 nautical miles, 10 nautical miles, nothing. She turned her head and looked north. 1 nautical mile, 3 nautical miles, and finally saw the coastline 7 nautical miles away. She carefully looked at the clothes and signs of the people on the shore. She looked away and slowly landed on the boat. She looked at Steve, speechless. North Sea, my ass. This is the Eastern Mediterranean. 7 nautical miles to the north is Crete. It was impossible. In the movie, the two of them didn't use oars. They had no direction and drifted from Paradise Island to London in one night. That was too close to England. It was true that Zeus was ferocious, but he belonged to the Greek gods. England was the territory of the Celtic gods. How could Zeus hide his mistress at the enemy's doorstep? Weren't you afraid of being captured by the enemy? It was logical to hide in Crete. That was the place where Zeus often visited. There were too many people in Greece, and it was inconvenient for Zeus to do many things. Crete didn't have such concerns. The nearby islands were scattered all over the place. It was the perfect place to hide his mistress. Crete. Steve's geography score was very good, but he was confused. The plane was flying east, but now it seemed to have landed in the west. This made him doubt his ability to recognize the way. They were still far from London, and naturally, the three of them couldn't just float there. Whether it was to find a faster transportation to London or to replenish their food and water, the three of them had to go ashore. Why don't we go directly to Ares? He must be at the fiercest place of the war. With the sea breeze blowing on her face, Diana finally regained some of her composure and asked Sia, who was discussing the route with Steve, with a puzzled expression. Thea didn't know what to say. She couldn't tell her that what her mother told her was nonsense and that Ares was pretending to be a cripple in London. She also couldn't tell her that the choice she was making now was meaningless. Even if she were 10 times stronger, she wouldn't be able to stop the war. Besides, there would be an even fiercer war in 20 years. Did any of this have anything to do with Ares? Yes, but it didn't matter. She had wronged him. She couldn't think of a good excuse, so she winked at Steve. At this time, Steve was definitely a patriot and representative of the liberal democratic spirit. He righteously told her how many people had died in the research of the poison doctor, how much impact he would have on the war, and how many innocent lives he could save. He spoke very sincerely. Although Diana still had doubts about his combat ability, she was also moved by his words and immediately decided to go to London first. The three of them had reached a consensus, and the next thing they needed to do was to find a means of transportation. Thea didn't dare to take out the skateboard. No matter how stupid Steve was, he would still be suspicious when he saw such a sci-fi thing. Gideon had tried to stop Thea from getting those futuristic equipment several times on the Wave Rider for the same reason. Who would be more foolish than the other? Reverse engineering could reverse engineer many things. If it weren't for the fact that the Amazon-style armor was too unique, she wouldn't have worn her combat uniform. Sia was already prepared to focus on magic in the next battle. After confirming the location, the three of them were not in the mood to talk. Thea began to absorb the essence of the night alone. Diana was thinking about her own worries, and Steve pinched his thigh, trying to wake up from this unscientific dream.